And welcome back to Watches Live, the internet's top curated luxury watch safari. Thank you for joining me on Watchbox Reviews this evening, guys. I have an incredible array of watches, probably the largest number I've ever placed on the table at once. I've got everything from high horology to a $2,700 Breitling diver, so everyone will find his flavor tonight. Remember, I'm giving away a watch, a vintage Omega Speedmaster Professional Moon watch, link in the description. You gotta be in it to win it, and I want a YouTuber to take it. Let's start off with the title card. I showed you a Rolex Sea-Dweller. I'm gonna give you a Rolex Sea-Dweller. Jump into the flavor of 2017, the 50th anniversary Sea-Dweller. This is the 126600. Now, this watch was a breakthrough in a couple of respects. First, because it was the first appearance of a Cyclops eye on a Sea-Dweller, and some folks take it, some folks leave it, but this was also an interesting halfway sizing solution between the Deep Sea and the traditional 40mm Sea-Dweller. It's actually a much more wearable watch than the Deep Sea, despite the fact that there's only 1mm difference between them. This was the 50th anniversary watch, launched honestly as a tribute to the 1960s and early 70s red Sea-Dwellers, and that was a wonderful little historical nod by Rolex, which does periodically acknowledge its own history as well as its fans. I'm going to throw this one on the wrist so you get a sense of it. Now, it's an interesting watch because it's a 43, and so is my Zin Easy M, and I'm going to show you just how different a watch can look when you go from a strap to integrated bracelet and end links. The Sea-Dweller looks like it's 2 or 3 sizes larger than my Zin, and that's all down to the fact that it's integrated with its bracelet. So let's throw it on the wrist. Now, there were other refinements that arrived with the 50th anniversary Sea-Dweller, most notable of which internally the 70-hour power reserve. Now, this is significant because a lot of folks think that 70 hours, a silicone hairspring, and at least 100-meter water resistance is going to become the new standard for the industry. Rolex has been slow to embrace silicone, but it has jumped right into 70 hours. Since its first 70-hour watch, the Daytona in-house in 2000, it's spread across most of the line. The watch is much more wearable. I can't wear a Deep Sea. I can wear the Sea-Dweller 43. Think of them as the difference between a 42 and a 44, and you get a better sense of the sizing. Now, it's not nearly as thick as a Deep Sea, which is almost 18 millimeters thick. This one is far flatter on the wrist. You can wear it with a cuff. Just remember, jacket, not shirt. An easy watch to wear, a big lovable lug. It's going to come down to whether or not you love that Cyclops eye or detest. And if you're not a fan of the Cyclops eye, that's okay. We've got other sports watches on the table to suit almost every taste. A company that proves you can go Rolex without going Cyclops. Tudor shocked everyone last year by launching a competing Pepsi GMT. Now, everyone was talking about the Rolex GMT-Master 2, but the amazing thing was that Rolex let little brother Tudor steal its thunder with a Pepsi GMT of its own, and a watch you can purchase for less than $4,000 pre-owned. I gotta say, this is the more compelling value, and no wait list. Now, the thing I like about this watch is that Tudor kept it in a dive watch format. They kept the case, they kept the rotating bezel format. It's basically the bezel that you get on a Black Bay, albeit with a Pepsi inlay and bidirectional action. The watch is also 41 millimeters, which I love because they could have gone 42 or 43 with this like they did with the Black Bay Bronze. Instead, they held it to 41, made it a wearable size, and they didn't pander to the mainstream, which often says bigger is better. They kept this watch wearable and close enough to the Rolex that between the two, I'd easily choose this as my particular option. I don't see any reason to pay $20,000 for a Pepsi bezel GMT-Master when this is available right now. And remember I said Rolex is loath to embrace silicone? You get it right here. Friends who are joining, let's acknowledge the folks. From around the world, Eddie Landsberg is first, Russell996 joining in, Andrew, hi Tim, hi Andrew. I could see Andre31, Blue Shirt Buddha, Tom P, Hale Bop, customer and a friend, Naresh Pape joining from Toronto, I believe, Joe D, Joseph Folk, Jose Diaz, I can see Bara's Vlog joining from Atlanta, Alexei Samola of Finland, Jason Main, he is our friend and he is our Buddha. He is our guru for everything pricing, availability, condition, and accessory. Ask that man, he has it at his fingertips. He's my man in the box. Richard Howard, Claudio T, also a friend, also able to quote just about everything, and I can see Naresh is joining us from Halifax, Nova Scotia tonight. We got Jess8414 from El Paso, Texas, Ross from Seattle, and Willie Pete from Arizona. Okay, guys, I'll be checking in on you periodically through the program, but we've got so much on the table tonight. I'm going double pumped. Now, in 2012, we saw the first modern iteration of a symmetrical case, no guard, straight lug Omega Speedmaster with the first Omega in space, dedicated to the memory of Ed White and his Omega 105003. It was actually the first Omega in space. It was his personal watch, not NASA issue, not a service piece. And he took that Omega into space and on the Gemini 4 mission flew it to immortality with a spacewalk. This watch, a numbered series but not a limited edition, was released in 2012, and you can see how different the case is from the Speedmaster Professional, right down to the lack of any shear guards on the crown side. Now, we would see that watch again, or at least the case, in 2016 with the CK2998 Blue, and then again in 2018 with the CK2998 Driver's Edition. Now, this one featuring a classical motorsports panda dial, a handsome tritone of red, silver, and black. You can see some of the features carried over include the alpha hands for the registers as well as the time, and the bezel on this one is ceramic, but unlike the blue CK2998, which featured a loomed tack, this one is actually a pulsation scale, and it features inlaid white enamel. So this is very much a driver's watch, or if you're the trackside doctor in F1, it's got a pulsation scale so you can take care of your boys on the track. 39.7 millimeters in steel. It's a wonderfully wearable watch, and you can see the perforation of the strap, driver style. I like that Omega indulged those of us who are fans more of motorsports than aerospace, and also harked back to the original purpose of the 1957 Speedmaster line, which was originally conceived for motorsports applications. It's a gorgeous watch, and it wears easier on my wrist than the 42mm Moonwatch. Again, note those straight lugs. This one features a sapphire. All the CK2998 and straight lug Speedmasters have featured sapphires to date. A lovely watch. Moonwatch caliber, still 1861 inside. Now, if you're a fan of the classics, but you want something with a little different aesthetic and less of a mainstream ubiquity, then I think I've got just the thing for you. And I finally thought ahead and brought a polishing cloth with me. So this is a tribute to the original 1969 series of Zenith El Primeros, the A384, A385, A386, and it's a handsome watch, 42 millimeters in stainless steel that wears easily on a 16 centimeter circumference wrist, as you see here. It's 50.6 millimeters lug to lug, so it's full size, not oversized, but the richness of the dial is what gets me here. You can see the overlap of the dials, a combination of a sort of anthracite, a silver, and then a dark metallic black. What I love is the design parallelism here, as Zenith's textile strap features a tri-stripe featuring the same colors as the registers of the watch. The dial is strong, applique indices, a few well-chosen splashes of red, a sunburst blue that's wonderfully dynamic, and the date anchoring the dial at 6 o'clock. Now you can see that the case is simple but strong, with a little bit of a faceted bevel down the lugs and squared off ends. Note the box section sapphire, expensive and impressive. Zenith El Primero caliber on the back, and here you can see that what appears at first glance to be a NATO strap is anything but. A NATO strap would cover up the case back. Here you can see the caliber 400, 52-hour power reserve, automatic, 10 beats per second, beaten away, and again, that's because this is not really a NATO, it's a NATO look-alike without any of the stack or encumbrance on the case back. Also, instead of the cheap pin buckle generally associated with the NATO, Zenith gives you a full steel deployment, which I adore. This is a lovely watch, wonderfully appointed, and a wonderful value at around $5,000. I actually think that one's $4,500. So we're going from a mainstream chrono to possibly the most accessible watch I've shown on the program in a while. For about $2,700, you could do a whole lot worse than the Breitling Super Ocean 2. Now, this is part of a line that debuted at Baselworld 2010. Originally the Super Ocean 2, it became the Super Ocean 42 after 2012, and that it is 42 millimeters in stainless steel. It's a bit more deluxe than the more popular and more common Super Ocean Heritage series. First, you can see that this 1500 meter diver does feature a helium escape valve. A feature I want you to see is the captive bezel arrangement. Like a Zin watch, like my EZM, the bezel is held on with screws, so the bezel itself can't simply be snapped off if you knock it against a door frame, sheetrock, or obstructions while diving. It's fixed by screws. That's called a captive bezel. Now, turning over to the dial side, you can see Zenith, or not, well, Zenith, in this case, Breitling, two brands I love, and in rapid succession, you can see they don't cheap out on the dial here either. Just as the Zenith featured a handsome array of appliques, Breitling too does the applique thing. Not a printed dial, they're all raised metal, and it absolutely glows like a torch. There's a cobra yellow chapter ring and a cobra cobra yellow tip to the seconds hand, and that is Breitling's terminology. The bezel itself features a rubber inlay, which is wonderfully scratch resistant, and then inside the case, which is incompressible and can't be conventionally water tested, it's a 28242 in chronometer spec, so it's tank tough on the inside, it's tank tough on the outside, and it's a wonderfully wearable watch, just under 50 millimeters lug to lug. It has a handsome profile on the wrist, and for $2,700, you can't go wrong with a diving chronometer that's this handsome, this versatile, and wears this well on a small wrist. I prefer the Super Ocean 42 by far to the Super Ocean Heritage. Those are handsome watches, but this just feels more Breitling, and in my opinion, offers more value than the somewhat stripped down Heritage series. I'm going to jump into my chat box and acknowledge some friends. I've got Aunt G asking, Tim, would you get the Sea-Dweller 50th or a vintage sub? Well, basically you're asking me, would I choose a watch that really can't swim or a modern Rolex with warranty? Because let's face it, 5-year warranty. The first Sea-Dweller 43 50th came out in 2017. They're all under warranty. Honestly, it comes down to fit. The 43 is huge. It's a giant watch. If you're going to wear this around the office, I would say probably go with the vintage sub. Do your homework. Buy the seller before you buy the watch. But, you know, that's more of a versatile timepiece that you can wear anywhere except the water, whereas the Sea-Dweller 43 is going to be one you can absolutely use for sporting applications. And I want to show you something that I kind of missed on the first pass, but it's the fact that there is a double extension here. On the Sea-Dweller 43, you have a glide lock system internally. When you lift it up, you get the ability to adjust incrementally 20 millimeters total, 2 millimeter increments, and then you get the flip lock, which is the fold out extension. So that's about 50 millimeters total. This is a lot of capability. Personally, I would prefer a modern Rolex for everyday use. If you're more of a collector and you've already got a modern Rolex, then maybe you go with the vintage watch. But this is the no loss, no wrong answer. You've got a lot more homework to do and questions to ask about your collecting preferences and tolerance for risk by buying a vintage sub. I can see right here we got Claudio in the box saying he digs the red sub. I've got Philip Hayden saying he loves the new Sea-Dweller with the red accent. I can see we've got 53 Capri Drive. Hey Tim. Hey Capri, welcome guys. Okay, the Watch Lounge joining in, Connor B, Radio Bro. Tim, are there two watches from different brands that utilize the same ETA movement? Yeah, definitely. The 2824 has been used on many different watches. Breitling has used the 2892, Omega has used the 2892, Longines has used the 2892 and the 2824. Over the years, Zinn has used them. Many companies have used ETA calibers. So are there two watches from different brands that use the same ETA caliber? Emphatically, yes. And it's... Don't even start with the 7750s. Okay, jumping in, I've got Kevin Wiltshire here joining from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for getting up early with me. Now, let's talk a little bit about a watch that's off the beaten path, but a handsome chrono with the heritage, the finish, I would say the patrimony too, to match anything from the big three of Swiss High Horology or Lange. Now, this is the JLC Duomet chronograph. It's part of a series launched in 2007. I talked about patrimony. It pays tribute to a chronometer minute repeater in the JLC Museum, the Heritage Gallery, which was an Abauche by Victorin Piguet of the Vallée des Jeux, modified by JLC, and it was a twin-barrel, twin-drivetrain, single regulator movement. Fast forward to 2007, JLC builds a chronograph version for a wristwatch of that Heritage pocket watch, which is why this watch, with a heritage dating back to the 1880s, features modern fit, finish, and materials, but very much the architecture of a pocket watch, starting with the twin-barrel, twin-train arrangement, but also with the German silver, or since we're in the Vallée des Jeux, the Maillot nickel, copper, zinc bridges that are a wonderful gold. Note the Côte de Soleil radiating out from an imaginary center point at the balance staff. You can see the mono pusher, chronograph, column wheel, bridges, and levers. And you can also see that this is a deep movement. You can look at it diagonally through it, much like you can with a Lange or a Richard Mille. The case, 42 millimeters in white gold, was part of a 200-piece limited series from 2010. Matte black dial. Everything that's rose gold is part of the chronograph. Everything that's white gold tells the time. Twin center seconds hand for both the time and the chronograph. A rare setup. 2 power reserves, each 50 hours, 2 power reserve indicators, foudroyant, 1/6 of a second hand, and a mono counter where you have the hours, the tens of minutes, and then a scrolling disc with single-digit minutes. Now you stop everything, you reset, And now everything zeros. Note how you still have center seconds. Very unusual for a chronograph to have running center seconds. A watch that I used to own, not this exact unit, that's been sold. My old watch has found a new home. This is number 145 of 200, and this is my favorite JLC. It was my dream watch for 4 years. I owned it for 4 more. No regrets. I had my fun with this timepiece. And you can see, back then, JLC gave you a full deployant clasp with the duomet, not a pin buckle. They weren't pinching pennies. We also have some high horology watches from equally admired brands. I mentioned that the JLC is a little bit like a Lange in its architecture. That's because Lange and the Duomet series both reference pocket watches. However, this is a lovely 38.5 millimeter Saxonia Longomatic Perpetual. Now this is part of a series launched in 2001, 38.5 millimeters. It's a platinum watch with a wonderful galvanized black dial on a sterling silver dial base. You can see the Perpetual calendar indications. It is loomed, which I love. And of course you've got the outsized date. You also have applique Roman numeral indices and a railroad track outboard. It's a thin watch, only about 10 millimeters thick, and it wears wonderfully as a traditionally sized piece. It has the mass of precious metal, but at 38.5 you can wear this on a small wrist. Now, many will say that the highlight of this watch is on the case back, and I don't beg to differ. This is caliber L0851. You can see it features a 3/4 rotor, so it gives you the visibility of a manual with the convenience of an automatic and the slim profile of a manual because it's in the same profile as the bridges. They're in the same plane. Note that it is a gold rotor to which a platinum mass has been attached. That's right, the rotor is gold, the mass is platinum, and they're joined together by blued screws. You can see stripes because we're in Glasuta. We're not in Switzerland. They're not Côte de Genève. And there's a hand-engraved half bridge for the balance with a black polished swan's neck. It has that same golden hue because it's the same material used for bridges and plates as in the JLC. Nickel, copper, zinc. Since we're in Saxony, it's known as German silver, not my sure. Now, a timepiece that unarguably represents the haute de gamme and released somewhat controversially in 2017. A watch I adore. It was never controversial in my mind, but this is the 5320G. Perpetual calendar, white gold, 40 millimeters, a wonderful cream lacquer dial with applique white gold Arabic numerals, syringe style hands. Note all of this is loomed. Perpetual calendar, and it features a strong stepped bezel and fluted and stepped lugs. You'll recognize these from the vintage Patek Philippe 2405 reference. It's a strong reference to their history, and of course anytime you get that combination of gorgeous lacquer, syringe hands, full loom, a strong and striking case, as well as a Patek Philippe movement, you're on a winning streak. The only controversy here, I think folks thought perhaps it should have been a micro rotor automatic, and perhaps the combination of case and dial was a bit pandering. But you know what? If they were pandering, they struck a chord with me. I adore this watch. It uses a 324 base, and it's about 11 millimeters thick. So this is a great all-around watch with a modern 40 millimeter size and the convenience of a perpetual calendar that need be adjusted only once in the year 2100. Now I'm going to show you on the wrist what the watch looks like. I love those 2405 lugs. This is a timepiece I would gladly own. It sells new for about 82. It's pre-owned for about 77. And in that sense, you buy it pre-owned. It's a safe and fun store of value, a lot more entertaining than bonds. I would never call a watch an investment, but as a store of value depreciated, again, it can be more fun than some other options. Now, I will show you a watch that absolutely qualifies as a store of value in perpetuity, just like this Perpetual. But let me show you something cool. This is the integrity disc. It comes with that 5320, and you can see 5320 on it. This is the solid white gold case back that comes with the watch as an alternative. If you want the watch to be thinner and more massive, if you want all your white gold instead of a 30 Swiss franc sapphire, Patek gives you a white gold case back that you can have optionally fit at a Patek Philippe boutique or during service. I love that. They're not shorting you the gold. They're giving you the option. They're giving you both. Friends, in the box, I can see Joshua P. saying Patek uses the 324 for a ton of their watches. That's a fact. Everything from the Nautilus sports watches to automatic Calatravas. And I've got Matt Foster saying he's a fan of Alongo Unzona. I can see Z saying, should have shown the Patek before the Lange. Lange kills this piece. Well, let me be honest with you. The Lange is a better proposition. You're getting a platinum watch, a more beautiful movement, perhaps a more striking design, and you're getting it for $42,000 pre-owned versus $77,000 for the Patek. The Lange is a stronger offering, but some folks are going to go with Patek for the name. Some people are going to go for the dial design. Some people are going to go for the case design, and I can't fault them on any count. Now, let me show you something that's a little bit, well, let me show you the watch that's my favorite on the table tonight. I adore this piece. Did I say it's my favorite? Co-equal favorite. To be continued. This was a special edition Vacheron launched in 2011. 80 pieces, a combination of stainless steel, and you can see titanium for the screw-down shoulders of the pushers of the chronograph, as well as the Maltese cross bezel. Now, the watch is 42 millimeters in diameter. It's only 13 millimeters thick. It's a perpetual calendar chronograph, reference 49020. I love this thing because it's easy to wear. It's 150 meters water resistant. It has a soft iron inner cage for anti-magnetism, a high horology Frederic Piguet vertical clutch column wheel automatic chronograph, and a Vacheron Constantin perpetual calendar module. All of that in a watch that's mostly steel and very wearable. Look at it on my wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters circumference, and frankly, I can't wear most oversized sports watches. This is 42 and it fits. I'm going to show you an offshore 42 that's more like a 45, but this is a watch almost any wrist can wear, almost any taste can appreciate, almost any situation warrants, and with a combination of water resistance, high style, a perpetual calendar, and a chronograph, there is no time you would not want to be wearing this watch. A timepiece that I adore, and please buy this so I'm not tempted. This is one of my top 3 Vacheron of all time. And co-equally, my favorite on the table tonight. I'm going to show you my favorite in a moment. Let's jump into the chat box, see what's going on. I can see Blake Taylor has joined us. He's saying Vacheron's been on fire lately, but proof they've done things right in the past. That was a 2011 special edition. If we ever get the USA Boutique limited edition of 20 pieces, red, white, and blue, that's a hypothetical I don't want to indulge. And I can see Thomas Burnett saying he is a fan. I could see Christopher Peterson. He's a fan as well, I believe. Always trying to figure out what the antecedent comments are to which you refer. And Josh Beverly saying, of the VC, definitively the best of the Holy Trinity right there. Between the three, I easily prefer Vacheron over AP and Patek. I absolutely adore them. Frank is saying that Vacheron is the best behind a Lange und Söhne. Subjective, but it's certainly a valid proposition. And Jason Main saying VC could mount a comeback, but it would take a real shift. I think as of SIHH 2019, they're on the comeback trail. They've been doing things really nicely for the last year, both at the entry level and the top of the line. I think they have a solid 12 months under their belt. Even the Generation 3 Overseas is finally gaining momentum. I'm optimistic. I'm a VC believer. And I can see we have a question. Tim, please consider reviewing the newer IWC Ingenieur chronograph. You got it, my man. But let's start with a watch that is, frankly, outrageous and just for friends. Quite literally. This was the 2004 Roger Dubuis Easy Diver chronograph, 46 millimeters stainless steel, and proof that salmon dials are not a new thing. This watch was overwhelming in every respect. A 300-meter diving chronograph, quite literally, inscribed on the caseback to say, just for friends, you either take it or you leave it. This was a polarizing piece, part of the sports activity watch line of 3. It was easily the most striking. Now the watch does feature a rotating dive bezel, and you can see the dial is of exceptional quality, all metallic guilloche applique. It features a triple lug for the extraordinary spacing of the strap, and the attention to detail is second to none. This was a watch almost Dadaist in its design sensibility, but look at the inside of the clasp where you can see a repeating Roger Dubuis motif. Literally no detail, no square millimeter was left unadorned. Now turn it all over, you can see why I'm high on the piece. This is the Roger Dubuis. Can we get super close, Garrett? My man in the booth with me. This is the Roger Dubuis caliber 56, also known as the Lemania 2310, or as Patek Philippe would have termed it, the CH2770. Manual wind, big, slow-beating, oversized balance, free sprung with a swan's neck adjustment system. Excuse me. It features a swan's neck micro adjustment system and timing pins. It features a lateral clutch and a traditional Geneva black polished capped column wheel. Absolutely gorgeous. Manual wind, overcoil hairspring, 5-position chronometer style adjustment, and if you can see the balance half bridge, it is Geneva hallmark. This is as good as it gets. A watch that is difficult to reckon, outrageous in its style, but unimpeachable in its finish. This is a unique timepiece. again, you love it or you hate it. It's just for friends. 888 pieces from 2004, but a very valid answer to the question, what is the most high horology I can get for my money for $12,000 or less than the price of a Rolex Daytona? That is a hell of a lot of watch. And jumping straight in, I can see we've got Feed the Fat Rabbit saying, if Invicta ever made stellar, innovative quality pieces, it would look like this. I kind of agree on both counts. And I could see Eric Cecil saying, with friends like these, ... excellent use of an ellipsis and apophysis. Naresh Pape saying, friends with benefits. And Justin Hill, not a fan, saying, do you have to be drunk to like this Roger Dubuis? No, I think you have to be around watches for a long time and learn to take it on its own terms. It asks you to laugh with it, not at it. Now let's jump into some Grand Seiko, because I've got some stellar pieces on the table. Two different takes on a 41mm automatic 70-hour power reserve white dial sports styler. I could say these are both sports watches. They're also both dress watches, hence I call them sports stylers or versatile pieces. You see on my right hand, Rolex Datejust 41, launched in 2016, 41mm all steel, Super Jubilee bracelet, 3235 movement, 70-hour automatic COSC chronometer, and it's 100 meters water resistant. Right next to it, the watch that I would probably pick of the two, 41mm in titanium, 100 meters water resistant, spring drive. It's the Grand Seiko Snowflake. Now this is the post-2017 Snowflake because Grand Seiko's at 12. Look at the texture of the dial. It's a sort of rusticated, wind-blown simulacrum of the wind-blown dunes or drifts of snow outside Grand Seiko's studios in northern Japan, and it is remarkably faithful. Over half a dozen individual steps involved in the creation of this dial, stamped, galvanized, and varnished to produce that pattern. It's not a nickname. Snowflake is the name given to this watch by Grand Seiko watchmakers. Also, note the quality of the dial furniture, including the black polished hands at center and the hand-finished and hand-applied faceted and polished individual applique indices. This is as good as it gets. Now, between these two watches, you don't have to ask me twice. I would take the Grand Seiko. It's the more interesting watch by far. Pre-owned for about $5,500 with spring drive technology, I would easily choose this. Now, look at the black polish of the case band. You can see the qualitative difference between Zaratsu manual tin plate polish, which is almost like Swiss movement black polish, but on the exterior of a watch. You can see the difference between that and the polished flank of a Rolex Oyster. Now I'm going to do it justice. I'm going to remove my fingerprints, but you can see it's really not the same thing. It's handsome, but it's not virtuosity. It is, however, a versatile timepiece, and remember, Grand Seiko's warranty is 3, Rolex is 5, so Rolex does have a lot to recommend it, including the option of a loomed dial. That'll be a make or break for many. The loomed dial here does set it apart from the Grand Seiko. Friends, which one do you prefer? Let me know in the chat box. Are you a Grand Seiko guy or are you a Datejust 41 guy? Personally, I go with the Snowflake, and I don't have to ask twice. If I need a loomed watch, I'll buy a Luminox if I'm out of money to complement my Grand Seiko Snowflake. And I can see right here, Dustin Van Patten, Grand Seiko. I'm finally a believer. Ian Long, Grand Seiko. He's a fan. And I can see that Matt Foster is saying he is a big fan of the Grand Seiko Peacock. That is the SBG J227, I want to say. Lovely watch, too. And I can see right here, Dustin Van Patten, also a Kirizuri fan, and the J.D. Brown 1968 joining us from Oklahoma City. Thomas Burnett, Snowflake fan. And I can see right here, Kirk Campbell is asking, how do you win the watch? You enter with the link in the description. I'm giving away a vintage Speedmaster Professional. Now let's jump to a watch that, incredibly, I've overlooked up to this point, and it's generally a mindshare hegemon online. The original oversized high horology sports watch, it's the Royal Oak Offshore. Now, this is the Royal Oak Offshore 42, circa 2017. The black and blue dial came out that year, and this is the watch I told you is a 42 but wears like a 45. It's very unusual to see this watch on the bracelet. Usually the watch is on a strap. It's usually on a hornback alligator or a diver rubber. It's exceptional on the bracelet, which helps it to recover some of the integrated aesthetic of the original Giorgenta Royal Oak, albeit with the Emmanuel Get proportions and style. 55-hour power reserve, principally in-house caliber. The base is in-house, 100 meters water resistant, chronograph pushers and crown shoulder ceramic on this one. I can just wear it. This is the smallest risk you would want to hazard with this watch. Finally, I mentioned that I have a favorite on the table tonight, and I'm going to show you. It's my co-equal favorite along with the Vacheron, but this is the Omega DeVille Hour Vision annual calendar, sunburst blue dial with circular Art Deco Gadron underneath applique hour indices. You can see how they converge at the 3 o'clock. Annual calendar need be adjusted only once in the jump from February to March. 41 millimeters in stainless steel. You can see the movement through the flank of the case, through the lug profile, as well as through the display case back. And this caliber was the original 8500 series watch. It's called the 8601, but it was the original of the in-house purpose-built coaxials to feature the SI14 hairspring. All of this, 100 meters water resistant, automatic coaxial chronometer, 60-hour power reserve. I adore this watch, and someday I will own this model. This will probably be the next luxury watch I purchase for myself when my collecting hiatus ends. A wonderful piece that could easily be your sports styler, or, for that matter, your formal companion. It's a watch that does it all. And considering this model bowed back in 2008, proof that Omega was way ahead of the blue dial trend, doing it best and doing it first. All right, guys, that's what I got for you. I want you to win a free watch. Enter, link in the description, vintage Omega Speedmaster Professional Moon Watch. Thank you for everyone who joined me. We had unbelievable viewership tonight. Comment below. Let me know which watch on this table you loved most. And between the Grand Seiko and the Rolex, sound off. Okay, guys, join me, Tim_Mosso on Instagram. Enter to win. Thanks to you, thanks to my crew. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.